Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. Everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Scoreboard. I'm Jared Kimber. Well, Virat Kohli made 100, and because of this, all cricket conversations over the next few days will be ruined. The weird thing about this knock is, if you ignore the fact that he hit 2 full tosses in the death overs for singles because he was looking for his 100, there was kind of nothing wrong with this innings unless you are theoretically opposed to the style. As in, if you knew that you had an opener who was going to make that amount of runs from that amount of balls, you would win a lot of games if it happened all the time. The real problem is that no one else made any runs quickly or even really at all. The other issue is, because he has this slightly under par style about how he goes about his innings, the entire team was under par around him. It meant that they were probably 15 runs less than where they should have been. But RCB can't be under par because their bowling is made up of lint and lost buttons. So it looked even worse as he made runs. But compare it to the Royals, who in their bowling attack have 2 of the best spinners in the competition, and RCB used artificial intelligence to make a leg spinner, and then they coughed up runs through misfields and drops off him anyway. But from the Royals' perspective, the big story is clearly the fact that Jos Buttler is back. He got through a tricky period early on, played for a not out when the game was settled, and he still made 100 at a scoring rate of 170, scoring faster than Kohli with better support without actually ever breaking into what I would call a full sprint. That is the best possible news the Royals can have. For the RCB fans, there is no good news anywhere. Kohli limped off, and RCB had already limped off the ground before Kohli had even left the stadium. Anyway, let's go over to the Scoreboard part of the show. If you want to ask questions, super chats are the best way. I could see a couple of you already have, so thank you very much. But let's get to the main part of the show. And you're going to be shocked here, but we're going to have some Virat Kohli chat. we're going to have quite a lot of Virat Kohli chat, if we're going to be honest here. Oh, here we go. It's taking about an hour to load on my computer. Apologies. I don't know what was happening. I'm in the Cricket 8 studios. We've been live streaming all day without any problems. I come to do this live, although I do have my son's computer because I picked up the wrong one this morning. And all sorts of things have gone wrong. But this is Virat Kohli strike rate for each ball by opposition. So what's this? He's 5 games so far this year. You can see up here. So if you just want to do the colors, you can see yellow is Chennai, and then, I mean, you know how the team colors work, I hope. So you can see here that I just want to find, so this is around the 5-ball mark. Is that right? Yeah, 5-ball mark. So you can see slow in 3 games there, and against KKR today, against Punjab there, absolutely no issue with that. So he's had 2 faster slow starts and a bunch of slower ones. Let's get to this 10-ball mark, because I think that's the other interesting one. You can see that, again, he wasn't going particularly quick here. But he gets to that 150 mark, and after 35 balls, his strike rate today went down to 108. I don't think after 14 you should be 157, and after 35 you should be 108. This is not slamming off the entire innings, as I've already said, and we'll get to it in great detail all the way through here. But it is worth noting that while he ends up with a very strong strike rate, he did allow it to slip down. There's just no reason for this to happen, especially around the 30 to 35 ball mark. He should be looking for more boundaries in this area. And we see it again and again from him. And it's just steady decline all the way through. For a player who's as good as scoring 2s, and if you're betting on 2 being the next result today, you would have made an absolute fortune because there were so many of them in this game. Absolutely phenomenal. So you can see there that there's a lot of issues. All right, so let's get to... Oh my God. Nothing is going to work for me. Is that how we're feeling? It just doesn't want to work at all. All right, let me try and close every single tab I have. My son's computer is rubbish. He really shouldn't be doing any work on here at all. Let's come back over here. Muku, if you're listening, you're going to have to play an ad. My entire computer has just shut down for a moment.
This is brought to you by Cricket
and
They
I
are a
can't
new
get
player
anywhere.
in the game trying to educate fans on what is really happening in cricket. We have a partnership with them where we host live watch-alongs, do podcasts, and write articles. If you want to know what is really happening with our game, visit cricket8.com. If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now. Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our heads, players looked after their groin. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber short balls or when the rights issue tried to dismiss me. NordVPN will help you get through the straight bat of any GEO blocks so you can watch all the cricket you want. If you need your pitch changed, well, NordVPN can dock to any surface to a new location so your IP address is set up for you to win. Want to buy an associate cricket shirt from a place that won't ship to your country? Select NordVPN. Want to watch a game on a free stream in another hemisphere? Give NordVPN the ball. Or if you just want to watch a clip on social media that the cricket board won't allow, promote NordVPN to pinch it. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects their nether region with NordVPN today. A lot of people complain that I'm not a former cricketer and so that I don't really know the game. Well, you know what they can't claim? That I don't know desks. I've been using desks for years. I'm a collector of desks, old and new, and I'm sitting on a new one right now. I'm the Don Bradman of sitting at desks. So when I tell you that the E7 Pro next generation height adjustable desk from FlexiSpot is legit, this is like Michael Jordan talking to you about sneakers. This desk holds 160 kilograms. It is as stable as anything I've ever seen, and it has under-desk cable management. But really, the main skill here is that this desk rises and falls at the push of a button, and it moves super quick. And it has so many settings that remember your favorite heights. It really does it all. And I could not recommend the E7 Pro from FlexiSpot anymore, even though I am currently sitting on one of FlexiSpot's BS12 Pro multifunctional, adjustable, upgraded fabric ergonomic chairs. My butt and computer have never been happier than when using one of FlexiSpot's products. So get over to their page right now for big savings. Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our head, players looked after their groins. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer now. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber short balls or when rights issues try to dismiss me. Geo-block so you can watch all the cricket you want. Grab your NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Kimber. Support us on Patreon. Join for exclusive perks like AMAs, live calls with me, and a vibrant Discord community. Enjoy ad-free content, early podcast episodes, and access to my emailer. Plus behind-the-scenes stuff. We've built our channel on Patreon support, so a huge thanks to everyone who has helped. In cricket, I don't believe in momentum. But when it comes to my social media videos, I like memento. Its AI listens to me so that I don't have to. And then it can chuck in GIFs and subtitles and make it all fit all the different kinds of social media sizes. Memento does it all. It slices, it dices, and it resizes all of your hottest takes, your coldest facts, and your weirdest vibes. Grab it today and make your content start smashing the ball all around social media. On. If you watch this channel, you'll love us on Main, where we do deep dives into the greatest cricket stories every week at Good Areas. How did Virat Kohli play that shot? What is so weird about Neil Wagner? And explaining the incredible misery of being a New Zealand opening batter. Visit our Good Areas site today. Want to show the world that you not only love cricket, but that you know the game deeply? Well, you need a Bodyline t-shirt. In fact, at Bodyline t-shirts, you can actually buy a t-shirt about Bodyline, but also tees inspired by the greatest players in our game. Head to Bodyline t-shirts today. Good Areas is our other YouTube channel, and twice a week, it covers the great cricket stories from today and from 200 years ago, like how a late 1800s blogger decided which games were tests, and that actually stuck. Also, why Ishant Sharma was one of the biggest comebacks we'd ever seen in our sport, and whether captaincy affects batting. For all of this and more, go to Good Areas twice a week. In cricket, we protected our groin a full century before we looked after our brain. So don't be like our sport. If you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount on your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free as well with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Cricket wouldn't be the same without protection, and neither is your computer. Use NordVPN today. If you have always wanted to turn your passion for sports into a career, well, I have the course for you. Fans with Laptops is the multimedia course that I came up with after millions of reads, views, and listens to all my work. It's designed for anyone to use their own fandom to get better at making content on the sport they love. Go to Fans with Laptops today. If me talking live about cricket is not enough, we also have an entire channel dedicated to the best stories in cricket called Good Areas. Find out what matchups really mean, understand the logic behind Bazball, and look at the most important selection in the history of cricket of Basil D'Oliveira. Come and visit us a couple of times a week on the Good Areas channel for a new video.
Support us on Patreon and help us keep making our content. Join for exclusive perks like the AMAs, the live calls, and to chat with me directly on Discord. You can also enjoy ad-free content, early podcasts, and access to my emailer. Step up your cricket style game with Bodyline t-shirts. Explore their exclusive player-themed t-shirts, including favorites like Virat Kohli, Kane Williamson, and Ben Stokes. They also have team-inspired designs and options for hardcore cricket nerds. Their collection offers something unique for every fan.
If you have always wanted to turn your passion for sports into a career, well, I have the course for you. Fans with Laptops is the multimedia course that I came up with after millions of reads, views, and listens to all my work. It's designed for anyone to use their own fandom to get better at making content on the sport they love. Go to Fans with Laptops today. If me talking live about cricket is not enough, we also have an entire channel dedicated to the best stories in cricket called Good Areas. Find out what matchups really mean, understand the logic behind Bazball, and look at the most important selection in the history of cricket of Basil D'Oliveira. Come and visit us. Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our head, players looked after their groins. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer now. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber shortballs or when rights issues try to dismiss me. Geo-block so you can watch all the cricket you want. Grab your NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Kimber.
Support us on Patreon. Join for exclusive perks like AMAs, live calls with me, and a vibrant Discord community. Enjoy ad-free content, early podcast episodes, and access to my emailer, plus behind-the-scenes stuff. We've built our channel on Patreon support, so a huge thanks to everyone who has helped.
If you make a lot of content like me, you are going to need help. And that is why we use Minvo.pro, a slicing and dicing tool that uses AI to conjure up incredible clips from your podcasts and meetings. If you make content, go to Minvo.pro to cut it. Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you need to be just as careful with your computer's defenses as well. And for that, why not use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan and 4 additional months for free. It's also completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sounds like rhyming slang, but it's not. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via nordvpn.com/Kimber. If you make a lot of content like me, you will need help. And that is why we use Minvo.pro, a slicing and dicing tool that uses AI to conjure up great clips from your podcast chats and meetings. If you make content, go to Minvo.pro to cut it. Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. If you make any content, if you need your pitch changed, well, NordVPN can doctor any surface to a new location so that your IP address is set for you to win. Want to watch a game on a free stream in another hemisphere? Give NordVPN the ball. Or if you just want to watch a clip on social media that a cricket board won't allow, promote NordVPN to pinch hit. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a bowler protects the boundaries in the death overs with NordVPN.com/Kimber today. This is brought to you by Cricket 8. They are a new player in the game trying to educate fans on what is really happening in cricket. We have a partnership with them where we host live watch-alongs, do podcasts, and write articles. If you want to know what is really happening with our game, visit cricket8.com. If you make any content, Minvo Pro is the tool for you. Take your long format content and cut it and slice it for social media. This AI-inspired weapon will turn your one piece of work into so many clips. Try Minvo.pro now. Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our heads, players looked after their groin. So don't be as stupid as old.
All right. I really like to apologize for all the technical problems, although probably the best episode we've ever had when you talk to advertise all the people who advertise with us. Just want to get to Virat's breakdown a little bit. So we're in the middle of talking about him. Obviously, I made a big video on the main channel the other day, so you can go and have a look at all the different things that we put in there. But you can see here that his overall dot percentage is 33%. And in general, his percentage of singles in here is 42%. So today he had less dot balls than he normally would. And he's about average for dot. I'm shocked that he didn't actually get more twos today, that he only ended up with 7%. But this isn't that far off a standard innings. The only difference is instead of getting 11.5% of his runs from fours, he got 16%, which is why he obviously had a slightly faster innings. But it does tell you that this was fairly normal for him. Is it still not working? I just can't get anything. Let's see if we can get that. Oh, here we go. I really apologize. It must be something to do with my son's computer. So this is it, just looking at the scoring shots. So you can see very, very similar, but just taking the dot balls out. So you can see here that the fours are really the things that he upped today. And so, just a little bit different there. But a very, very standard Virat innings. This is how he scores as he progresses through his innings. Unfortunately, we all knew he was going to slow down between overs 7 and 11. And we saw that again. Absolutely, we're used to that at this point. But just want to have a look at him versus the different bowlers today. I think it's great that Rajasthan won, by the way, and Parag got it over. But you can see here, he went after Avesh. I think a couple of those, one of these was an edge. And another one sort of was very well steered. So I don't think Avesh bowled terribly against him, but it did look like Virat had seen him as a matchup. He hit that 6 against Chahal, which I thought was a really, really important, interesting moment. And you can see he didn't go too big against the left-arm bowlers, and Ashwin bowled absolutely fantastic against him. But this is kind of what we're talking about, that sort of strike rotation. But you have to give some credit to this. This is a very good bowling lineup. Not all of them, but when you go through it like that. This is his strike rate against spin by opponents so far. So you can see against KKR, he batted quite well. Everywhere else, 139 today. This was the second best strike rate he's had against spin. Some of that is going to be the Rian Parag of it. I can't think of a situation where you're going to get two better bowlers of spin and one worse. Well, I don't know. It's like Rohit Sharma coming on to bowl it over, right? I miss Rohit's bowling so much, by the way. But yeah, absolutely. The difference in talent between the two lots of bowlers there. But this is Virat's true values by bowler type since 2020. So you can see here, this is against pace. So he's above average in terms of striking and in terms of average against pace. Left arm wrist spin, you never have to worry all that much about left arm wrist spin just because there isn't that much of it around. When he's facing the leg spinners, you can see here, he scores slightly slow against them, but doesn't get dismissed against them. But right arm off spin is, I think, a bigger issue here because his strike rate is 20 points under what it should be, but he's also going out to it. That is a real problem, especially since I would have thought coming in that his main problem of the last couple of years would be left arm finger spin, where you could see he doesn't go out to left arm finger spin all that much, but in order to do that, he scores very, very slow. But again, Ashwin is a brilliant bowler. It does appear, looking at this, that it's not just against Ashwin. Although, to be fair to him, today he will get a bit of a bump in those numbers from Rian Parag. Bowling what can be described as off spin, I suppose, depending on how you look at these things. Side spin, is that even the best way of putting it? I'm not even sure the best way of looking at that particular bowling today. But this is Virat's true values by innings. So this is from 2020 to 2022, and then 2023 to this year. So we can see here that in the first innings, and none of us are surprised about this. I've said before, I think there are technical reasons why he bats better later at night, but certainly in one-day cricket. I think he likes the ball coming on, skidding on a little bit more. And he obviously loves chasing. And you combine those two things together, I think it's absolutely huge. But you can see that in the first innings from 20 to 2022, he was minus on true strike rate and true average. This last year and what we call a year and a quarter, 480 runs. His true strike rate is still down, but his true average is up. If you're going to be an anchor, these are not horrible numbers, right? You're talking about a slight downgrade per ball on what a normal player would give you on the same deliveries, but you are giving 15 extra runs for every innings compared to another player. You would take this. The issue, of course, is if we come across here, we can see he's a plus for both, but this is the one of modern times, right? This is 2023 to now. He's up on strike rate when he's chasing, and 10 is fairly significant, right? To be able to do that. But he's also almost double his true average. And so you really need this one to be at least somewhere over here, more neutral when it comes to strike rate, even if it isn't up here when it comes to true average. So, I mean, we're talking about a huge innings from Virat Kohli because it's become the story again. But these are the same sorts of things that we've been talking about for a very long time when it comes to Virat Kohli and how he actually does. Let's have a look at Trent Boult in the power play this year by match. So we've obviously got a couple of games here where he hasn't taken a wicket at all, but he's basically been absolutely destructive. So 5 wickets in 2 games and then no wickets in the other. And you can see that he's either taking wickets and you don't score runs off him, or he's not taking wickets and you can score runs off him. I think he actually did well today to only go at 7.5 and over, but we saw that Delhi game as well. He's so instrumental to Rajasthan. But I do think one of the issues with Trent Boult is, compared to some of the other great bowlers in the game, they're not even trusting him to bowl at the death. They didn't even give him the 4th over today. And when he's not striking, there isn't that much else to give him. And it's interesting because you watch in that one-day World Cup with the knuckleball and everything else that he's been developing, I would think he'd be a more handy bowler in those sorts of things. But we haven't seen that so far from him. And it's been feast or famine. This is very feast or famine type numbers, right? When you have a look at them and how they appear here at the moment. So it's certainly, you know, an issue going ahead. But I think the no death bowling today I thought was more interesting, although this is fascinating in itself. But let's just have a look at that next slide. Slower than well, most of the other RCB batters combined today. Trent Boult's true values in the power play. So this is just year by year. So we can see this is before today, so this will go down a little bit. But you can see his true economy. He's half a run better per over than everyone else so far this year, and he's getting more true wickets. But you can see, especially early on in his career, he had a few years where he wasn't particularly taking wickets. But since then, 2022, he was about par at wicket taking. He's above par in 2021, well above par in that 2020 year. That's only from 1 wicket, so we can forget about that one. 10 wickets in 2023 last year. That's huge. To be, you know, to be 0.7 wickets better per 4 overs than another bowler. It's just a huge amount of striking, and then also to be a run better. So when he has the ability to combine those two things together, he really does control games for them. So he can win Rajasthan a lot of games just by that period. Doesn't mean that you don't want him to come back later and everything else, but it is quite interesting. This is usually Chahal's economy rate by ball, and we're just going through all the 4 games that he's played here so far. So you can see that he's being used more at the death, and outside of the Mumbai game, we are seeing just a natural rise in the way that he's going. But I do think that is just the way that he is bowling his overs at the moment in this tournament, that coming on a little bit later. I kind of like that. If you think about what happened with Chahal today, I think it's fascinating. They had a situation where Lomraw, Green, and Dinesh Karthik, they couldn't just bring out the hitters because there were still spin overs to be bowled. I thought it was really clever from Rajasthan. It's incredible when you know, Rajasthan have issues with their lineup. I think they're an injury away. They're maybe still too dependent on the top order. I would wish for them to be able to find a way to get an all-rounder and everything else. But they get so many little things right. And that ability to hold Chahal back today and even Ashwin back for a long period meant that, you know, they just didn't feel as comfortable, RCB, with throwing in the normal death hitters. It's becoming a really interesting tactic that teams are doing now with the way that so many of these death hitters are great just against seam. So I think it's a fascinating one. And Chahal, it's probably why Chahal's taking so many wickets as well, right? That ability to be able to do that. But we just talked about his economy. This is his true economy. I think this is really, really interesting. So you can see here that last year, as the innings went on, teams attacked him more and more. This year, and we're, 4 games in, he's actually getting better as the games go on, which means that you can use him even deeper, right? I mean, this is phenomenal. You look down here at just how remarkable he is going when it comes to, you know, runs per over towards the end of the game. If this keeps up, the Boult situation that I've just talked about doesn't matter. Now, there's going to be a couple of games that will, especially this last over, it will get bumped up, right? Because these are you know, you only need one guy to hit him for 25, which is always going to happen to a wrist spinner occasionally. But if you can keep them around this mark, that's absolutely huge for them and gives them, again, versatility. And we know this is a team that likes versatility. We even saw that with the Rian Parag over today, right? They like that little bit of flexibility. All right. Yeah, we all know this is eventually going to crash, but it's it's trying its best to get through for us at the moment. Have we lost it? It's not loving it, is it? Here we go. So this is Chahal's true values by season. So he hasn't really had, what's this? This is minus on economy and slightly up on true wickets. And what's this one? Yeah, he's never had a horror season in the IPL, and he's only had 2 seasons that you would say are below par for a top level bowler, and 2014 is a little bit more on the button here, but it's still a positive, I'd say. But look how many positive seasons he's put together. This is where his current year is. This is excluding today. So this is going to go ahead even more so today. And if, you know, they've been able to take catches, who knows where that would have gone. But these are massive years. This is 2022. 27 wickets. He was half a run and over better than a bowler in his position. And he was also half a wicket better per 24 balls than a bowler in his position. Those are redonkulous numbers. And then last year, almost 3/4 of a run and over better. And again, almost half a wicket and over better in that spell. So if he can keep this up, it really is. And I think he's massively undervalued, probably because when he's played for India, he hasn't started as much. But purely as an IPL bowler, I think he's an elite bowler. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's in an awkward situation when it comes to Indian cricket, just because of the amount of all-rounders they have, the amount of guys who spin the ball in the same direction, the fact he can't field particularly well. All these different parts of his game, I think, do cause some issue. But purely as a strike bowler and an economy bowler, looking at this, he's way above average of where you would expect, another player to be. Let's try and bring up the next one. So I think these numbers just completely pop off the page, and it's incredible. Oh, am I missing one? And it's incredible to me that we haven't had that he doesn't get as much credit as he should. I think Bayram said on one podcast that he thought he was India's best spinner, and people were so upset. And it's like, yeah, you can make a solid argument that there are other spinners out there that are better suited to the Indian team. Not sure if you can claim that there is a better spinner when it comes to limited overs cricket. Sanju Samson strike rate today by opponent bowler. So you can see didn't particularly go after green today, which is quite interesting. I thought Topley bowled outstanding. And you've got the spinners that came on. So I love the way he went after both of these. Dagar was in the power play, and that was really where they took over the game. But he let Buttler essentially score off the pace bowlers, and he went after the spinners. That's a good partnership for them to have going ahead. This is his true values by bowler type in the IPL. Well, this is a blank screen. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I got mine. All right, here we go. So we can see here that left arm pace, he's about par when it comes to scoring rate. In fact, he's above par with scoring rate for every single bowling type. But you can see does go out to them a little bit. Right arm pace. This is quite an average record for a player of his quality against pace. So we can see not a great player of pace. Against left arm finger spin, he goes out to it a little bit, but his true strike rate of +10 is his best. So when the ball's spinning away, that's partly because for him, he plays slightly inside out, and it allows him to play the drive over extra cover. And you can see against wrist spin, he's absolutely great against both. And against finger spin, maybe a little bit more circumspect with his strike rate. So again, that's because the ball's spinning into him, and it's harder for him to go inside out, sort of over wide cover and everything else where he wants to go. But still, a lot of runs there. So it does tell you that he's slightly better against against spin than pace, which makes him a really, really good matchup. And also, it means that because they have two of the best spinners in the tournament, him and Jaiswal, if they get going, are so good against spin. And this is his true values by season. So we can see here early on, he did struggle a little bit. These are 3 pretty bad seasons. 2020, he had a down year, made a lot of runs, but he scored quite quickly, but had and in fact, this is a brilliant thing, but he probably gave back for the position he plays in, probably gave back. If you remember, he was putting his foot down quite a lot there. I'm not against this season, but in Rajasthan's lineup, probably these are the seasons you want him to have, because they don't always have that extra batter because of that lack of an all-rounder. You can see this will go even better today. So he's a plus on true strike rate and a plus on true average. Both of those will get pushed even further today. And I just want to come down to 2023. Here, just above average on true average and true strike rate. I think for the role that he plays in this team, it's fine. The fascinating thing for him is how long does this last? Is this just early season Sanju Samson again? Or are we seeing something a little bit better that will go on a little bit more? Jos Buttler. So you can see here, when it a runner ball against Siraj and a runner ball against Topley. So this could just be dumb luck. This was that Topley bowled really well to him, and then later on, he didn't want to take too many chances. And then he's above 150 against everyone else. One thing I noticed today, you guys might have picked this up as well, I had 2 guys out on the leg side for the short ball from the moment Jos Buttler came out. And I looked at his data in T20 cricket over the last couple of years, and he hasn't been going out to the short ball. But here's a fun fact for those of you who don't know. The analyst for RCB is Freddie Wild. No, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. And he's obviously also part of the England camp and an analyst over there. So I think they brought the ODI style in because Buttler has been struggling against the short ball. I think he's had 4 or 5 wickets against the short ball, averaging about 20 in ODI cricket over the last year or two. And so they went for that. It didn't work today, but he did cloth at least one up in the air and missed it a couple, almost dragged on. So I don't think it was a bad idea. You can see here, he also took down the spin, but it was the way he went after Dale and Green. That was pretty much it. This is such a weak bowling lineup. If Siraj isn't in form, and he's not in form, today, Topley was the only bowler I would say is a plus bowler for that. We know Yash can run hot and cold. We know Siraj can run hot and cold. This whole thing, I don't know what to do with. And this guy, I said it when he was paid. If you go back to the draft video I did, or the auction video I did when he first went to Mumbai, paying a lot of money for a guy who doesn't know how to bowl in T20 cricket at the moment. Australia will be hoping he works that out, of course. But what else do we have here? And then you got just Jos Buttler's record. So interesting enough, there's no left arm wrist spinner in the world, but when he does face it, he doesn't like it. This is him against leg spin. Again, not an issue today, partly because they missed a chance and everything else, but he didn't have to worry about it. He gets him out more than you'd like, but it's not one of those horrendous records that's going to ruin him. Say against left arm finger spin, I think Butler's problem is the wrist spin. I don't think he likes the way the ball goes up and drops because he plays a lot of those back foot shots with an angled bat. And I think wrist spin has more revolutions over the top of the ball. But you can see here against left arm pace and right arm pace, he's a plus in both. So really good against right arm pace. I'm actually shocked he's not better against right arm pace. And you can't bowl off spin to him. So today they didn't even try Maxwell against him. They didn't want to go for 2 6s there. And as I said, I think he's much better against finger spin than he is wrist spin. And you can see both of those marks there. So it's quite interesting. But just from a Rajasthan point of view, they just needed to get some runs out of him, right? And they did. So to get such a comfortable win in the way that they did against him, I think is absolutely magnificent. Anyway, that's the end of the scoreboard part of the show. Huge apologies. And thanks to everyone for sticking around. You guys could have left, but you didn't. Hopefully you all went to Minvo and you bought yourself a, whatever that desk is called, FlexiSpot desk, and you signed on to Nord. But yeah, we're still here, and I'm going to get to the super chats, and then I'm going to leave you all alone because I'm terrified that the whole thing's going to crash again. But we can certainly get through a few more minutes at least. ABCD with the super chat says, are RCB looking to win, or is their main goal to help Virat score as many runs as he can? And what are your expectations for Gill's IPL career and his prospects in T20 in general? So I said this on Cricket 8 today, that I do think that one of the reasons that RCB have gone all in on batting as a style is because Kohli feels a lot more comfortable batting with other people who are. I don't think he'd feel comfortable with the sort of Shivam Dubey, Deepak Hooda, Abhishek Sharma type players, right? So I do think there is a part of that the game plan is based slightly around Virat. I don't think it's about him getting runs, and I don't think he was the issue specifically today. But I do understand your point. But I do wonder if the leadership group at the end of that day do go up to him and say, you might have cost us 6 to 8 runs at the end when you were knocking full tosses, knee-high full tosses for singles instead of hitting them for 4s and 6s, which you could have been. I think that's an interesting question. But I don't think we should be blaming Virat for the loss today because no one else did the runs. As I said, he did his job. Well, you can argue that his job is wrong. And I think that is a very interesting one when it comes to RCB. As far as Gill, look, I think Gill's a fantastic player. I don't think he's quite worked out T20 batting in the way that he has ODI batting. But in the next 2 to 3 years, like by the time he's 27, 28, I expect Gill to be one of the best players in the IPL just based on pure talent, because I do think he is that good. So I've got no issues with him from that point of view. Thank you for your super chat. Sriram says, I'm working with ball-by-ball IPL data, and I want to calculate true stats for all seasons. Is there any formula method? That's almost an impossible one for us to be able to answer on a video. We will eventually one day get to the sort of algorithms that we have. But the best way of looking at it is if you have an IPL ball-by-ball data, you can work out what the expected runs is for every single ball, and then work out if batters are plus or minus it. That's the simple version of a true strike rate or true economy. And then you can start to go into ground situations as well. Season situations, all those sorts of things you can start to factor in also. But yeah, the very basic one is what I just said. Tree says, how teams think about playing more lofted shots in the power play. Interested in the boundary percentage in the power play between teams. Piercing the gap, players seem to get stuck. They do. I always think that it's funny because they've made him into a late order player, but I always thought Marcus Stoinis is kind of your ideal power play player because it shouldn't get caught very often in the ring because he's so strong, unless he actually spoons one up in the air, right? Whereas other players are in that position, and his ability to chip the ball over the top for one bounce four, he should be able to do that every ball. You do get players who try and pierce the gaps that struggle a little bit more. I don't have lofted shot data. That's more probably a CricViz thing. There might be some other databases out there, but I've never seen any. But yeah, there is an argument to be said that those sorts of players who naturally sort of hit the ball up but don't need to swing all the way through are your best bets. But yeah, if you have a look, Shree, we talked a lot about the different ways that people play in power plays. Jaiswal, who obviously failed today, he scores 57% of his runs in power plays from boundary fours, which is way different to other players. So there is more than one way of scoring in the power play. But your general point is I think, fair and valid. I think the best players in a power play probably have 4 boundary options available to them. Probably 2 of them, doesn't matter if they hit the ball on the ground or in the air. And the other 2, they probably want to be able to hit in the air consistently, without spinning the ball up. Rahul says, is Kohli's low strike rate due to his mindset or ability? I think it's down to old school mindset of taking a single off the next ball after hitting a 4 or a 6. I think he has a lot of those little quirks that come from that he would have been taught as a kid. All right. So I think he does hit singles after hitting a boundary. I also think he hits a single off the last ball of the boundary. And I also think he still has that old school mindset of, I'll hit a boundary off the first ball and then I've done my job for the over. And I don't think he thinks in that sort of cash-in way. Someone like Jos Buttler or Samson, they get a matchup and they try and maximize the matchup in that over. And England players are brilliant at this, right? West Indies players invented it, so they would also, those 2 countries. It's much more prevalent there than it is in places like Australia and India and Pakistan, where you'll see someone will hit a boundary the first ball, and sometimes they'll just gear back a little bit in the over. So I do think it's mindset. We know he can score 2 runs a ball to death. If you go through my video, he's the best strike rotator that there is, and he's the best at scoring 2s. He could up those and look for more boundaries if he wanted to. He could trade those in. It's not how he thinks about cricket, and it's not how he goes about things. And I can understand that it is very frustrating for everyone else out there. I still think my biggest issue with him is that I love Virat Kohli as a player. He was my pick from the Fab Four, from day one. And my biggest thing is, what stage is he going to look back and go, I didn't do everything I could in T20 cricket, and why would he want to be in that kind of a situation? So I do think there's a bit of an issue there. Look, because you all stayed on, I'm going to quickly play the shortest ad possible. And I'll be back after the ad to see if there's any more questions in the room. I'm Jared Kimber. I'm on the scoreboard. I am the scoreboard. I'm all things. Like us, subscribe to us, do these things. I'll be back in a moment.
If you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months, plus gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a blocker protects the stumps with NordVPN today.
Celebrate your cricket heroes with Bodyline t-shirts. Explore their player-inspired tees, featuring legends like Sachin Tendulkar, Brian Lara, and Viv Richards. They also have team-inspired designs and options for hardcore cricket nerds. Their collection is a must-have for the true cricket enthusiast.
It says, in T20, it's not about how long, it's about how fast you can score. It doesn't matter if you score 40 off 20 balls, you need to utilize your resources completely. RCB being only 183 for 3 is correct. Yeah, I mean, especially considering when did Faf go out? Around the 10th or 12th over? I've said this before. I can't remember who it was, but there was a team who scored like 200 for 2, and everyone was going absolutely wild. And I was like, I don't think that's a good innings, right? It might be good in that game, but if that is your plan overall, unless you had a bunch of drop catches or your batters just absolutely thrashed and weren't dismissed, Generally, that's not good. So it isn't just about how fast you can score, Vishan, because it's not, right? But it has to be about both. And I do think that, if you're in a situation, there was no reason for Faf and Virat to be going at the rate they were between their 7th and their 13th over, right? And they got themselves a little bit stuck. They should have been putting pressure on, especially they were on top of a good bowling attack. Keep your foot on them. Don't let them get away with a Rian Parag over, right? That over has to go for 20. And that sounds ridiculous, but his normal economy is like 11 runs per over in the IPL. And he bowled that over, 9 or 10 with two openers set and two of the best batters in the world. That's not how you play T20 cricket. And there were too many times I thought to myself, they got away with not even needing Trent Boult at the end. So I'm not a big fan of teams finishing 3 wickets down in the first innings with that kind of score. After the 3rd over of the power play, I think I'm right in saying their projected score was 195, right? And they've ended up with 183 without losing any wickets. You have to question yourself at that point. Lenny says, why is Cricket Australia scheduled the BBL to overlap with the Aussie Test summer? So let me just explain why this all happened. Essentially, Australian summer only lasts 2 months. December and January, that's all you get as far as cricket being the #1 sport in the country. It's a huge sport for those 2 months. October and November, you're struggling. February and March, you're struggling. My point was, when they first had the Big Bash, that if they put the Big Bash for February and March, no other major sport has a stranglehold on that. Aussie rules football and rugby are just starting toward the end of March. So if you start late, let's say middle of January, you get all the big crowds in. Then for the rest of the Big Bash, you do that. That means they could have owned from December through to March. They didn't believe in the product enough. So essentially, that's what happened. They didn't believe in the product enough, and so they went a different direction, and that's where we are. Iceman says, perhaps RCB needs a bowl better. But how are they going to do that? They've got 2 spinners who combined are not one good spinner. Siraj is the one bowler that you would say needs to bowl better. Yash Giles always going to go up and down. They got Cameron Green. We all knew he couldn't bowl beforehand. They've had to get Reece Topley into the side, who bowled fantastic today. No one's got any issues with Reece Topley. A bit of a lucky wicket, but no problems there. Here's the thing, Iceman 11. If you know your bowling isn't strong, you need to be plus batting. The way that RCB batted today, and Virat is only a part of this, but their entire method was that they were trying to get around a par score. Well, if your bowling is subpar, your batting needs to be over par, right? And you look at it from this perspective, and I've talked about this before. If you are Pakistan with, Peak Shaheen and Naseem and Harris Ralph in your side, and you're like, we only need to get to par because we think that between those bowlers, they're going to get 4 or 5 wickets. And that they're going to come at important times. They're going to destabilize the chase, and then we'll be able to sneak by with our spinners, right? If you have a team like that, you only need to score at par. Rashid Khan teams quite often need to score around par, right? Because they have Rashid Khan available to them. Those great Rashid Khan booby teams, right? Absolutely fantastic. Rajasthan, another team. Rajasthan really need to score around par most games because their bowlers are going to be above par, right? RCB, the bowling is subpar. Even if it was working correctly, so Siraj was bowling at his best, and Green, if Siraj was bowling at his best and you had Topley bowling at his best, you still have weak spin, you still have Green, and you still have Yash Giles going up and down. You have to be above par with the bat. And that's what it comes down to. And these things are so hard. Just so hard to do. And that's why if you go back, Iceman, and you look at when I talk about Pakistan, that was my big fear with Pakistan all the time is so often they come into World Cups where they need the bowling to be above par to make up for the batting. And you can't guarantee that. Even Rajasthan, we think they're going to have a really good bowling season, but they can't guarantee that. Niggles could happen, loss of form could happen, and everything else. So you need to be strong on both sides of the ball. And if you look at RCB at the moment, they have to score, 5% more runs, 7.5% more runs, maybe even 10% more runs every game than what the estimated par is. How do you do that? And to be fair to the RCB batters today, they had to do that against the best bowling attack in the league. Like we can go on about Virat Kohli and the theory and all that sort of stuff, but this team has not been assembled very well. And that is a part of it as well. Krishna says, do you think management has a strategy where they want Kohli to anchor and other batters to strike around him? If yes, then why was Du Plessis not trying to score quicker? They do, but so we've had, what is Glenn Maxwell's strike rate this year, right? If I looked it up, my whole system would crash, so let's not do that. But my guess is that Glenn Maxwell's strike rate this year is quite low. And there's another player that I was looking at that also that should have a high strike rate. You can't strike quickly every game. And this goes back to the previous point, Krishna, about that, is if you've only got one, if you've got one batter who's always going to bat within himself, and quite often will chew up a lot of balls because he is such a prolific batter, it means that if you get someone stuck at the other end, you're going to have periods where you're not scoring at the rate that you should be. If you have two batters going and one gets stuck, it's fine. Have a look at Samson and Buttler, right? They didn't score all that much quicker than Virat Kohli. I don't even know if Samson did in the end, but they didn't score all that much quicker than Virat Kohli. But when Samson was really going, Buttler could step back. And when Buttler was really going, Samson could step back, right? If you get a player at the other end who's not striking like that because he's lost form, and your other guy is playing within himself because that's his game, right? That's when you get these issues. And these things do slow down. You could build a great team around Virat Kohli, right? And what you would do is you would pick 6 great bowlers, and then you would pick, you know that Virat Kohli is going to average about 10 or 15 more than average in most years. And then you would pick a bunch of other, you would basically try and do what Punjab tried to do when they had KL Rahul at the top and a bunch of hitters around him, right? Or Shikhar Dhawan and a bunch of hitters, I should say, sorry. You create that lineup of 1 batter, 7 hitters, but you need the good bowling to go with that. And that's where Punjab keeps going wrong, and that's where RCB is going wrong. There is a team that Virat Kohli would work very well for. He'd play perfectly in the Perth Scorchers, right? He doesn't work perfectly for this side. They're not creating the great side around him. Now, you and I can still argue that Virat Kohli's style is a part of the issue here. I think that's a fair argument to have, and I've had it so many times that I want to die. But that, if you know the way he's going to play, and chances are he's going to play that same way again, and he has, you need to build the team around him. The real question is here, why have they never done that? And a big thanks to Iceman for his Canadian dollars as well. And a big thanks to all of you. Really sorry about the technical problems. Even you see this camera, this laptop is terrible. And I will promise that I will pick up the right computer from here on in. But I'm Jared Kimmer. This is Scoreboard. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us as long as you did. And we will be back again very, very soon. And by that, I mean tomorrow. Yeah, we did yesterday, we did today, and we're doing tomorrow here on the Scoreboard. And we'll be here at least 3 or 4 times a week, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.
Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our head, players looked after their groins. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer now. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber short balls or when rights issues try to dismiss me. Geo-block so you can watch all the cricket you want. Grab your NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Kimber.
Support us on Patreon. Join for exclusive perks like AMAs, live calls with me, and a vibrant Discord community. Enjoy ad-free content, early podcast episodes, and access to my emailer, plus behind-the-scenes stuff. We've built our channel on Patreon support, so a huge thanks to everyone who has helped. In cricket, I don't believe in momentum, but when it comes to my social media videos, I like Memento. Its AI listens to me so that I don't have to, and then it can chuck in GIFs and subtitles and make it all fit all the different kinds of social media sizes. Memento does it all. It slices, it dices, and it resizes all of your hottest takes, your coldest facts, and your weirdest vibes. Grab it today and make your content start smashing the ball all around